And welcome to the All Blacks Edition, EP6, brought to you by DrivingMaul. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And for those of you watching live, sorry about the technical issues. For those of you watching the recording, I've cut that bit out so you can go straight to the good stuff. Right, I'm going to handle the live chat, and Ashwin is going to be your host tonight. So I'm going to hand over to Ashwin, and I'll be back with comments from the live chat.
Thank you very much, Paul. And as Paul has just said, make sure you get into that chat room and put up plenty of comments and put in plenty of questions. If you want us to have a chat about your question, we'll try and get it. But if you want to guarantee it, hit that $ with the old. We'll bring it up there on the show and have a discussion around it. Normal format of the show. We've got 3 topics that we'll discuss. If we get a bit more time, we might throw something else in there, as well as super chat questions and topics. What else was I going to add? Yes, and joining us tonight is Ryan and Herman. Ryan, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been pretty chilly out here in West Auckland, but yeah, battling through it and looking forward to some international rugby.
and getting a sense of deja vu.
a little bit.
Herman, how you doing? Hopefully we can hear you. No, we still can't hear Herman. Oh, disaster. Oh, well, while Paul carries on in the chat room and tries to sort out our technical issues, oh, there we go. We can hear him.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Finally.
You hit that mute. You unmuted that mute button.
Yeah. Shh.
How you doing tonight, Herman?
It's afternoon here, and I'm doing fine. Sun is shining. I've been out walking, watching some old television shows today. I'm free today, and I'm really pumped for Test rugby. Really pumped.
I thought you were going to break into a bit of Bob Marley there with the sun is shining, but it's good to hear while we freeze down here. Right. Hey, look, moving right along. Getting into our first topic for tonight. Obviously, we've got the big test match in New Zealand coming up this week. Is going to be the All Blacks in France. So, going along that vein, what's your favourite memory, both All Blacks and France, memories from previous games? Who wants to go first?
Well, I think from a New Zealand perspective, it's pretty obvious what the worst memory is. Some people might remember that the All Blacks crashed out of the 2007 World Cup in the quarterfinals to France. Now, this was even worse for me because it happened on my birthday, October the 7th. I also had to work that morning. I was working at a cafe in the central city. The good news was that the cafe was at the Les Mills gym, and there was a TV in the foyer. So what I did was I got to work about an hour earlier than I needed to so that I could watch the game in the foyer. And I thought, nobody's going to come in, nobody's going to watch, no one's going to be at the gym while the All Blacks are playing in the World Cup quarterfinal. And if they're at the gym, no one's going to come and want coffee from me, so I'll just sit in the foyer and watch the game, which worked for about 77 minutes until some lady came and ordered her soy latte, so I actually missed the end of the game. Didn't obviously miss anything because the All Blacks failed to score, but yeah, just a disaster all round that day.
Herman, what's your worst All Black memory? Oh no, we've lost Herman's voice sound again.
No?
Yes!
No?
Now!
Yes! Quick,
No,
go talk!
no.
Talk! He's got cell phone coverage, quick!
No, I wonder, what was the mood like in the gym for the rest of the day?
I don't think many people, nobody turned up. It was a real quiet Sunday, which it was generally quiet in there on a Sunday anyway, but that was just even worse and just depressing and yeah, just kind of tried to forget it ever since, I think. But every time Wayne Barnes pops up, we always get reminded, don't we? So,
But Wayne Barnes probably, yeah. I should not say too much about that. But obviously, we start with the worst. Obviously, since I have no emotional connections to either team, so it's hard for me to talk about the worst memory about that. For me, it's more easy to talk about. There have been a few epics. I mean, proper epics, and the one in Cardiff. But I leave that one to you, Ryan. The other two that comes up to my mind right away is obviously the semi-final from 1999, which I think is a bit misunderstood by some All Blacks fans. There's a general consensus that they were choking. I have rewatched that game twice. And the second half by France, that you cannot find better rugby than that. I mean, All Blacks were up 24-10 with Loma on fire. And still France came back and tried one. So you had that game. And it was also an absolutely amazing rugby game. Come on, like 44-31 with a comeback in a semi and the French bringing it. So that was, I understand the hurt for all the All Blacks fans, but from a neutral perspective, it doesn't get better than that. The other, game that comes back is actually from the last World Cup in the quarterfinal, but of course, since I follow All Blacks for the last 20 years, that is by far the most complete performance I've ever seen from the All Blacks. And my stand-up moment is when the bus is busting through the left, on the left wing, and you're actually watching the faces of Aaron Smith and Brodie Retallick in the background. How he has, for every hit, they make yeah. It's that's my standout moment, positive standout moment. It's perfect, poetry in motion.
I think from that game, people forget, people know that we won convincingly in the end, but I think it was Louis Picamole scored just before half-time to get it back to 24-13, and there was kind of a sense there at that point that, hey, France are kind of still hanging around, still in this, and if they can score again, who knows what's going to happen. But the All Blacks hit straight back from the kickoff, basically. Xavier scored, put that buffer out a little bit at half-time, and then the second half they were just outstanding to run away with it. So that was an incredible performance, and really, it was the way to bury the demons from 2007.
Yeah, totally agree.
We talk about the unpredictability of the French, and that comes through a lot in our conversations around All Blacks French games. But I think the other thing that actually is that there's good history through all the World Cups, and there seems like an interconnectedness of All Blacks French games. You go back to '87, the very first World Cup. The final was an All Blacks France final. Obviously, All Blacks did actually win that quite convincingly, but then you've got your '99s, your 2007s, and there's so many things that have happened in All Blacks French games through the World Cups.
And not only there, I mean, it's. I think another thing that's also, I think, is a bit overlooked too is, but what is this the French unpredictability? Because they are only really unpredictable against the All Blacks, Otherwise, it's fairly easy to predict what we're going to do. And what I think is over in France, which makes it so weird to hear sometimes All Blacks fans speaking bad about France. The French, the top 14 only foreigners, that's a shit. But it's a lot of negative talk. And when you speak to the French people, they love the All Blacks. They absolutely love the All Blacks. They have the utmost respect for it. And therein also, I think, is part of explanation. For them, it's I think it's for every rugby team, it's the ultimate challenge to play the All Blacks. But together with the Springboks, they are the one who cherishes the most by far. And that's basically why we bring it so many times. Because for them, it's their Everest to play the All Blacks. And they are very, very clear about it.
And that's
I think. Sorry, Ron, go again.
No, I agree entirely with what Herman's saying. I think that's why people. I mean, we'll get to this with question 3, but people try and write off the French based on their form against other teams. We can't look at South Africa 12 months ago and try and base this tour off that, because the fact of the matter is, they will lift for this series. Regardless of who they play, regardless of who comes out on the field. The All Blacks is their ultimate test, and they will grow an extra limb for it. So that's where that unpredictability comes from, because we can't predict based off what they've done in the last 12 months or the last 24 months, because we just don't know what they're capable of in a game against the All Blacks.
I mean, maybe I go
absolutely.
Sorry, maybe I go into a little bit of a murky ground here, because I also think it's because most of a rugby world is like very Anglo-Saxon, and French are like the only like really strong Latin contribution to it. And here's where it gets a bit murky, but they have a little bit of different sish, the French, and then they really start believing. When they get that fire in the team, they really start believing. The Anglo-Saxon team are not really don't know how to handle it, because it's, at least for me, it's very visible on the ice when the French starts to believing. I think all Blacks fans see it too. Oh shit, no. Here we go again, Because remember the World Cup final in 2011, where France also came in like that should be a walkover for the All Blacks. And pretty soon, you even realize before the game, when we challenged the Haka with the arrow, oh no, like this. Basically, everyone knew right away. I
absolutely agree with you. I was just like,
they lost
to say,
Tonga at
there's
that
that
World
Latin
Cup.
Yeah. But that's that French team that we know, and like this is that. I've forgotten the South African term when that they do it primarily over in South Africa, but there's this sort of rage rage isn't the right word, but they really just get amped. They really get amped. They see a black jersey in front of them, I should say, and they lift their game. And as you say, that 2011 World Cup final is probably a really good example of that. Ryan's just alluded to the fact that they lost to Tonga. And then, it's a walkover, easy game. Hey, I'm going there to Eden Park to watch a nice, comfortable victory. Richie lift the cup, and it's just like we're relying on Beaver with a T-shirt that's too small to knock it over from about 50. So no, there's something about them, and it can work in reverse as well with the French. Is the fact is that as much as it can amp them up, it can also be like, let's go have a coffee.
Yeah. No. You can backfire spectacularly too. I remember could this be 2010 or something? We played away against the French in Marseille. And before the game, all the talk was because the All Blacks never win in Marseille. And I think it was like 62-10 in the end. And it was clearly one of his games where the French come up and they were too fired up. And the All Blacks just stay calm, collected. And yeah, there you go. So that can happen too. But that's what makes it so interesting, isn't it? We don't know.
Well, the biggest thing is that I think that with that Latin temperament is that they can lose the plot, and that's the problem. Is that like we're into this, and we're over the edge, and we're giving away penalties, and we're doing red card type infringements, really living on the edge, as Bon Jovi might say. So
But this is maybe more interesting from since you guys being Kiwis, because obviously it seems like the French sometimes can lure the All Blacks into their temperament.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the key. It's the key, Like, so when they really get amped, they want to get the All Blacks amped, because when the All Blacks get amped, like a Latin individual, they lose the plot. They go away from what their structures are and all that sort of thing, and that works in the French favour. So absolutely, it's about, as much as the French getting that sort of fervour into their game, it's about knocking the All Blacks off their stride as well, and getting them out of their patterns. Because let's face it, reality is that when you come back to, as you put it, Herman, Anglo-Saxon teams, it's about pattern, it's about structures, it's about the procedures, and if you maintain the procedures, then everything else falls into place, type of thing. So, and that's what you want to upset for them.
But if I stick in here, who is your favorite French player ever?
Mine?
Yeah.
My one? Oh, mine's Serge.
Serge Blanco.
I was going to say, yeah. I was going to say, if I was going to go my favourite all-time, just French moment, not against the All Blacks or anything, it was his try in the '87 World Cup against Australia at Concord Oval. It's just like, it won it for them. It's just like, it's fan. Going back to those old games and seeing the way they played it, it's awesome.
I'm surprised.
We see Ryan thinking hard.
I'm surprised he didn't go with. I suppose he didn't go with the name. Arsenal go with Condom. the old the second rower.
No condom is big enough for the All Blacks.
I think for me, probably going back to that '94 series that was so famous here, and I was always a big fan of Jean-Luc Sardoni, the fullback from the French team in the mid '90s. Obviously, the kind of guys like Sebastian Chabal, just probably more for his sort of personality and his off the field kind of endorsements and stuff like that than what he did on the field. But he was just a larger than life kind of character and stuff like that. The funny thing with the French is they chop and change so much. There's very little continuity in their team. It's like you kind of like what a player brings to a team, and 2 years later he's nowhere to be seen. So
I was going to throw in Philip Seller in that list. He was a fantastic player. But
Absolutely.
You mentioned '94, so I just thought I'd just give, because there'll be a lot of people who don't remember that far back. So '94, the June tour, or the summer tour, France came over to New Zealand and played 2 Test matches. The first one in Lancaster Park, down in Christchurch. France won 8-22, and then that was on the 26th of June and the 3rd of July. So that's so the following weekend up in Eden Park, France won 20-23. So a close one there. So France won that Test series.
A cry from the end of the earth.
A crime from the end of the earth, did you say?
No, a cry from the end of the earth. It was a crime if you're an All Blacks fan.
So you won that series 2-0. Go on, sorry.
Some guy named Lomu made his debut in that series. You might have heard of him.
Yeah.
Wow. And his debut.
That was his debut at Lancaster Park. Youngest ever All Black.
Actually, I'll throw another one in there. We've been talking about a lot of key test matches, well, not key test matches, but test matches in history that have some significance attached to them. I can't remember, the year's gone blank from my mind. It would have been maybe 84. The Baby Blacks. Basically, the All Blacks had gone to South Africa to play as the Cavaliers, with not a handful even, 2 or 3 of their regulars left behind, and they pick all these basically baby-faced assassins to play. John Kerwin playing his first test, I think, might have been in that one. No, actually, wouldn't have been, but he played in that test. And they came away with it, against the odds. Nobody expected them to actually have a shot, and the reverse happened, where the unpredictability of the French is the unpredictability of the All Blacks to come through and win that one. So, so many of these little key games or games in history with lots attached to it that we've had with the French.
And that was the first game at Lancaster Park there was won 10-9, and the second game was 31-18.
Great game.
Back at Eden Park again for the second the return Test match. So yeah, again a two test tour, 2-0 that time to New Zealand. I have got the wiki page open. I'm not doing this all from memory.
and just for a bit of humour, also I keep mentioning the 78, but it was actually 79 when they came here. But the great test series, because KFC came out with an awesome activity book with Hugo and Polly on the cover, and fantastic crosswords and finder words in there, all related to the French All Blacks test series. It was fantastic.
And KFC is still sponsoring the All Blacks to today. Wow, isn't that?
Or Super Rugby.
Or Super Rugby, yeah.
Even though Geordie goes and eats McDonald's.
Oh, dear. Geordie's got all sponsorship dollars down the drain there. So, how many times do you think France have beaten New Zealand in New Zealand? Herman's going with 3. Decides to use fingers.
Yeah.
I'm going with. I'm going to go with 4.
They stunned us first test of the year about early 2000s. Might have been in Dunedin.
Yeah, it was Dunedin. Yep, that's one of them.
Yeah,
yes,
so that's one. Then the 2 in
Dunedin.
94.
And
94. You've got a 79 one that I mentioned.
Yeah, so I reckon it's 4 or 5.
There was one in the 60s, I believe, when I think one of their players kicked it from like 60 metres at Athletic Park or something like that.
Yeah, downwind.
I didn't see that one. I'm not that old.
Definitely not into the wind.
No, you've picked more. Actually, it was 4. It was that one in '79. That those the 2-0 Test series we talked about, and then the opening one in Dunedin at Cairnsbrook in 2009, 22-27. That one I remember. And that one was a shock and that's a good memory for me. That one. Cool.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, I suppose we'll move on to our second topic. We're looking into the future here because we're obviously on a Wednesday. Team naming's on a Thursday, so we're going to look at the All Black squad that we're sort of thinking is going to be picked. And because, our All Black selectors / coaches are so out there, we know that it could be anybody playing tomorrow, don't we? I mean, there's no way we could pick the squad that they're going to select. So there are a few positions up for grabs, I suppose, or within the game or on the bench. That there might be some issues. Number 8, who are we picking at number 8? Let's start off with that because we've got no Kieran Reid. I'm guessing we're looking at Squire.
Yeah. I would be massively surprised if it wasn't Squire.
I think Squire definitely plays. So the question is, does Squire play at 6 and Whitelock start at 8?
Just Whitelock, All Blacks captain. He has captained the All Blacks.
Yeah, against the Barbarians, huh?
Yes, not in a test match. So I guess if I was picking the team, I would probably play Squire at 8 and opt for someone else on the blind side, like Fafita. But I kind of feel like they're going to go with Whitelock and Squire's going to play at 6. Something, yeah.
But are we? They said, are we convinced yet that Sam Cane going to play? It's not. It said
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, how confident are we that Sam Cane's going to play? You know, he's been close for a couple of weeks now and hasn't even made it to the bench.
Well, that's the worry, and I guess he's got no game time under his belt. So if he does play, does he come off the bench? Which is then a huge question, because that's the flip of what's normally happened. Paul's shaking his head.
Hey, look, okay, I'm checking.
Trust Sam Cane?
If Sam Cane's fit, he starts. End of story.
It's a big ask trying to get him through 60 minutes of a test match when he hasn't played in however many weeks. So
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it's more.
But you'd rather have him on for the first 40 and then have Ardy come on for the second 40 rather than
because he's not a bench player.
He's not a bench player.
So here we go. If Sam Cane doesn't start, right, therefore he's not in the game, does Matt Todd start and Ardy still on the bench? Because they don't look at Ardy as being a starting 7, do they?
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Matt Todd's now in the squad.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, is that perhaps, if they did pick Cane to come off the bench, maybe it's behind Todd and not behind Savia. So you
absolutely. If I do agree with Paul in terms of the fact that I don't think Sam Cane is a bench starter type player, but if, hey, who knows, it's the full moon out there or something and the All Black selectors go and put Sam Cane on the bench, it'll be Matt Todd that'll be starting. I don't believe it'll be Ardy Savia.
No.
So that's agreement of silence of agreement.
No. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now that we've nailed down the forward pack. Oh, actually, I guess we're expecting Scott Barrett obviously slots in for Brady Retallick. What's the, in terms of the cover for the lock and back row? What are we looking on the bench?
Well, I think it depends on if Fafita starts. If he was to get the role at 6, then you're probably looking at Frizzell off the bench. But if you're starting with Whitelock and Squire, then I think Fafita's your 6 come lock on the bench. So I think the starting 15 determines your cover.
Yeah,
and the reality is that obviously Whitelock can slot in second row as well if he needs to.
Yeah, but what are your opinions about Fafita? For me, Yeah, he made a spectacular try against Pumas, but I'm not convinced about him in the All Blacks yet. I mean, what are your thoughts about him?
I'll go on that one. I think you look at Jerome Kaino as a good example. When he first came into the All Blacks, I mean, you wouldn't say he set the world on fire. He was definitely good. He deserved his All Black jersey. There's no doubt about that. But he got better as a player in that black jersey. And really, at the end, he was a different player at the end from when he first started in the black jersey. And my feel is that Fafita will be that similar type of player, possibly around the fact that he'll see their work ethic that he needs to have in the black jersey, and he'll learn that, and therefore that'll improve his game. So I agree with you in the sense that he isn't, as you said, he had a couple of moments last year, and he's not consistent, but I think that will come as the more time he spends in a black jersey.
I think he's a bit of a horses for courses type player at the moment, in that I don't know if I'd be keen to throw him into a test match against the Springboks, where you're expecting sort of a more upfront physical battle. But in a game that possibly is going to be a little bit more open, so we saw him used against Argentina. We've got France coming here, which I expect them to play with a little bit of pace and expanse. Games against Australia, I think he'd be fine in. So I think at the moment he definitely is a bit rough around the edges and not quite the total package. But in those games where we're expecting a little bit more of an open test match, I think he's ideally suited, and particularly if he's coming off the bench. Bringing on an athlete like him for that last 20 minutes is...
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. But my big concern about him... Sorry, my big concern about him is...
Yep.
He doesn't seem to have that real natural grunt and grint in him, like actually Kaino had from the start. Kaino usually, that's not easy to teach, to be a tough MF. That's something you either are or not are. And he
a midfielder.
Yes. No, but he doesn't seem completely comfortable. He doesn't seem to be really comfortable to stick his head in when it's really, really dark places. Comes through like a really nice guy, actually. So.
Well, look, at the end of the day, if you're correct in that view of Fafita, then he won't last in the All Blacks, right? Because in the All Blacks, you have to roll up your sleeves. You have to do the work. You'll get your opportunity if they see some potential in you, and they'll put you there. But especially in the forward packs, if you're not rolling your sleeves up and getting into the dark and dirty places when it's required, then you won't last there that long. You might be in the wider squad, the 60-man squads that go to the World Cups these days and play against Georgia or something like that. But you won't really be threatening the main starting, or the match day 23 or 24 or 25 or 40 or whatever it's up to these days.
60-man squad, Ash, come on.
It's a brutal sport, man. They need the numbers.
We've actually entered 2 teams in the World Cup, haven't you heard?
Yeah, All Blacks and England.
Look, it's my channel. I can switch you off whenever I feel like, okay? So be careful. I just hook you off the...
It's his bat and ball, and he can take it home whenever he wants to.
Exactly. As I described to my friends, I have my mates around to talk about rugby, and I tell them to go home when I feel like it by turning off my computer every night.
Anything? I suppose that covers off the forward pack, so we shuffle into the backs. Unless you want to add something there with the forwards? No, okay. So we move into the midfield there. Obviously, Crotty's going to come in at 12. Who are we picking to partner him at 13? I mean, apart from the obvious, which is going to be Leonard Brown. But I don't think there's a lot of favours outside the coaching staff with Leonard Brown.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest question mark I've got, actually. And I know that Paul's not a big fan of Leonard Brown. I think he's been reliable in the All Blacks jersey, and I think he's probably got the inside running for the centre spot. The other option would obviously be to start with Lomapi and have Crotty play at 13. And then you've got Goodhue as well. So I think there's no real standouts among the three. Or Geordie Barrett. I mean, I don't think they will, but I do think that
Geordie at 12 or 13?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I mean, do we read anything into the fact that he's played 13 for the Hurricanes the last 2 weeks? I mean, we'd like to think that it's the Hurricanes. It didn't work, but is that a call from above or is it a call from Chris Boyd? So,
well, but Chris Boyd and Steve Hansen don't talk.
Yeah, apparently they don't talk, and that's well. He's had his 2 first choice 13s out injured, so I think it's more needed rather than anything else. But
horses for courses,
on the
well, not horses, but yeah.
But yeah, the All Blacks seem to like to have that powerful runner at 12. So yeah, if I can see Laumapi coming in at 12 ahead of Goodhue, but yeah, you got to say, and the Crotty Leonard Brown is kind of the incumbent, as it were. But I think I'm not as you said, I'm not a fan of Leonard Brown at the moment, this season anyway.
We know.
I think we've lost your sound again, Herman. But while he's talking, the other issue we've got there is while he's trying to fix the sound there. Nope, still don't have him. Since we're talking midfield, Crotty is obviously a harsh term, but a bit of a liability there with his concussion issues. I think they probably will go to Leonard Brown because if then Crotty goes off injured, you'll have no experience in that midfield, or very little experience in that midfield, and they'll probably want to have Leonard Brown there, with maybe someone like Laumapi or someone covering on the bench.
Well, the other option is that Leonard Brown fills that role on the bench. I mean, he's played a little bit on the wing before, depending on the makeup of your back three, I mean, you're probably going to have McKenzie there as well, so he covers your 10 and fullback. But yeah, I do think that's a good point that you probably want some experience in the midfield, even if it's just cover.
Can you hear me now? Am I out again? Or?
Yep, we can hear you now. Jump in quick before you cut out again.
But in that regard, Geordie's like limited experience at 13. He makes even more sense to play on the bench, of course, because he covers a lot of positions there. So I think Geordie's probably a lock-on for a bench spot, which means we can take him out of any kind of argument that he's going to start. But are you not impressed with Goodhue? I'm really impressed with him. I really think that's a real proper midfielder for the All Blacks.
I've been Goodhue just time.
I've been very impressed with Goodhue. But just to go back to your other question is, if we say that Dave McKenzie is nailed on for the 22 jersey, how can you have Geordie Barrett in the 23 jersey and basically have no centre cover? I don't think you can.
Well, I've made this point before in that you don't need to have your centre cover on the bench. And if you've got Ben Smith and Rico Ioane in your starting team, well, there's your centre cover. They just shift in. One of them shifts in. I like having utility value on the bench, and I think it hurts Laumapi in that he can only play 12. I know he's been used on the bench before, but I like having the utility value, and you can't account for multiple injuries as well. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with having McKenzie and Geordie Barrett on the bench.
And you shouldn't look too much about what your opponents bring. I mean, All Blacks definitely focus a lot on himself, but one worry for me is one of the star players in the French team, and it's captain him now, is Bastereau. And I was totally cool with All Blacks going to handle him with Sonny Bill, because Sonny Bill is a big guy who really knows how to. Yeah, he's a good gritty fighter. But now with Crotty and Luampe, they are going to look like baby bulls next to Papa Bull, And what impressed me with Goodhue is he's not that big, but I would describe him more like he have a kind of jiu-jitsu strength. He knows how to take down the big guys. He knows how to utilize his full body in tackles. So that's what I would. If Bastereau is on fire, I would want to have Goodhue in there to try to tame him.
We'll just send Squire at him a couple of times, and that'll get rid of Bastereau.
But conversely, you could turn Bastereau and send him at Ryan Crotty a couple of times, and he'll probably go off the field.
Yeah, you talked about that yesterday. I mean, Ryan Crotty, he's not. If he survives the first test, that's going to be a big cross in the ceiling, especially the French bring it. But yeah. But
So,
outside
I
that,
suppose, yep.
No, it's very tricky to pick the midfield because there's so many options and there's so many question marks here too. I mean, as we know, Sonny Bill is going to come back in, but then we have this worry about Ryan Crotty that like, is anyone really expecting him to be around for the World Cup? I mean, it's a big question mark.
Sorry, Crotty?
Yeah.
Just because of his concussion?
Health.
Health?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was on the news, I think it was last night, saying, "Oh no, look, I don't feel any issues from the concussions, and I don't come back too early. It's like a hamstring injury, and I make sure that I'm 100%." This is like, as a professional rugby player who relies on wearing a jersey to get the paycheck, going to say, "Yeah, I'm feeling a bit foggy today."
Yeah. No, of course not.
Yes. Limited lifespan of a player as well, so I suppose bring in those dollars while you can. I think it's up to the medical teams to ensure that the players aren't endangering themselves. It's not right to expect the players to make the call because they've got other incentives, not losing their places, the paycheck, all of those sorts of things that they've got to think of. I think we go back a week and we saw Ben Smith whack his head on the ground. The fact that he came out okay, supposedly, was absolutely wrong. He should have been off the field and checked. And those sort of things. I think it should be the medical staff, like when they instead of asking Ryan Crotty, "Are you okay to play this week?" you ask the medical staff, "Is he okay to play this week?" Whilst the coach isn't standing next to them.
I saw a really good conversation happening on Twitter today about Ryan Crotty and the number of head knocks he's had in a relatively short time period. And
5 in a year.
Yeah, the point made is that research into concussion and whatnot is still really young compared with a lot of other injuries. And Ryan Crotty is going to be an excellent case study 20, 30 years from now. As sad as that is to say, but if it kind of doesn't help us now, but looking down the track, he's the kind of guy that we can go, well, hang on, look at him now. He shouldn't have been playing back then, or conversely, going, well, sure, he's fine. So they made the right call back then. So kind of hard to tell, and really we just have to go on what the doctors say.
But it's very extra tricky too, because I will probably put Ben Smith into that category too. He and Ryan Crotty is very similar because they seem to create the problem much more themselves than actually the opponents do, and that's just comes back to actually what is brilliant attitude. They are like true competitors, who are ready to go all the way. But in a brutal contact sport like this, it's going to take its toll eventually. And it's how do you teach someone like in the end of a career? Crotty is not in the end of a career, but they are like
established career,
been around for a while. How do you teach them? How do you teach someone like that to like change so much? What's like really like the
technique,
the core of a game?
Absolutely. Hey, look, we're starting to, move on in time, so we'll better come on to our third topic before we run out of it. And just sort of like, so obviously, coming into this weekend, first test match of the year for the All Blacks. What are we expecting? French team ranked 8th in the world. We've alluded to it in the first topic. Ryan, what are you looking forward to this weekend with the French?
It's really the unknown, and I think people look at the French form over the past few years, and it hasn't been flash. But if you look at the Six Nations, they're a team on the improve under Jacques Brunel, and a lot of talk this year has been about the All Blacks and what we're building towards, and that the last the end of year tour, and everyone's saying, well, that battle between us and Ireland is going to be huge because it's 1v2. We'll go and have a look at the Six Nations game between France and Ireland. Ireland was super lucky to get out of that with a long-range drop goal right at the death after 40-odd phases, I think. It was something crazy. So, there's a French team that just about tipped up the number 2 side in the world. They are missing players because of the top 14 final. They have got a few guys out injured. But history has shown that the All Blacks, too, are at their most vulnerable in the first test of the year. Generally, it's a bit scrappy, a bit clunky. They haven't quite gelled together. Do I expect the All Blacks to win? Of course. But I think it's going to be a lot closer and a lot more of a test match than people were probably expecting.
German.
Yeah, I mean, I take a little bit more of a French perspective to it, and I agree on the Six Nations. You could even take it further than that. Like on performance, they were probably almost better than the other team in all 5 games. You know, but that last game against Wales, how we lost that game, I just don't know. I mean, they should have won it with 20, and they lost like 14-11 in the end. It was sheer stupidity, like in some key moments. They were also desperately unlucky against Scotland, also lost it in the end, you know, but you could still see the building blocks for something that the difference is obviously clear that they are building to something. Mainly their defense is looking way better. So Steve Hansen has a point there, but I think he's taken a little bit too far calling the best defensive side in the world, but they probably maybe we can expect something a little bit like the Lions last year. Maybe if they really bring it and keep it tight, you know, All Blacks. Paul, you look like what am I saying?
Yeah, I was just like, don't look headlights. Quick.
Expect something like the Lions last year. So the Lions, the best, most experienced players from 4 different countries brought together. This French team with 2 players with more than 50 caps. They're going to have a front row with 1 guy with more than 30 caps, and a lot of guys with single numbers. One of their locks, because they got will be in single numbers because they've only brought 3 locks. The other guys, this is an extremely inexperienced side. And this is this is to try and compare it to an experienced Lions touring team.
No, but you misunderstand. You're missing the point completely, actually, Paul. I'm sorry to say. What I'm meaning is about the type of attitude and what type of game plan you can go to New Zealand and actually create a result. Lions gave away that for them. And I think the French team is very, very well suited to play that kind of game plan because gritty, tough, hard defense, that's top 14 for you all day.
No, very true. And I think actually that France got extremely lucky with the top 14 final. With Racing 92 getting knocked out, there's only 3 players in the squad that are actually in the final, 2 from Montpellier, 1 from Castres. So it's one of the thoughts we had were they'd be missing like 7 or 10 players because of the French final, but no, they're going to miss 3 players from that first test. So yeah, that first test is going to be the big one.
And to be fair, also of those 3 players, there's only 1 who's considered to be a starter too. So I mean that's in test rugby, to missing 1 player, that you can never make an issue out of that unless it's Broder Italic, of course, which is also going to be a huge equalizer. I mean, I wonder what they were thinking in the French camp when they heard about that. What do you reckon?
Oh, I think they'd be very happy.
Look, they would be happy. His form's been, it's Super Rugby, but his form's just been at another level against the other players in the Super Rugby competition, I think.
And the thing with Retallick is that he plays lock, but he does a whole bunch of stuff that locks aren't supposed to do. Like, play at first receiver and create. He gets around, he attacks the breakdown like an extra loose forward. He tackles like a 7. I mean, the guy just gets through work that locks just don't do historically.
Runs off the shoulder of his centres.
Yeah. So to take out a guy like that who's one of the, I don't think
the best.
I don't think it's controversial to say he's one of the best 5 players in the world. So
I say he is the best player in the world.
He's the best player. Yeah, I'd go with he's the best player in the world at the moment. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. What are we looking forward to
French team?
Yep.
So I want to mention, also that seems to be, because as we know, the final didn't really affect them because we didn't miss any players. They've been in Auckland for 1 week now, from when they came to Auckland already last Wednesday, and all the reports from the French hotel, there no shenanigans going on. It's all quiet. They seem quiet. They seem focused. They seem happy.
All save that for Wellington.
Bastero hasn't fallen through a window yet.
No, but
that for the captain.
It's Wellington,
and he's the captain. Imagine.
He's the captain. But I think you know where I'm coming from.
But also we have Teddy Thomas back, who after his naughty night out in Glasgow or Edinburgh, in Edinburgh. So he's been restored. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity for off the pitch stories in this French squad.
How about the
symmetry? And Geordie's back from his little dalliance in Edinburgh of the South. in Dunedin.
And Rico's back from his fight amongst the with his teammates.
Hijinks.
Hijinks. There was no fight. There's hijinks.
I just hope that Teddy Toma plays because he scored 2 of the great tries of the Six Nations, basically identical to each other in those first 2 rounds. So he's one to watch, I think.
I was really surprised under Guy Noves when he was a French coach, but he didn't pick him, because I've seen him before. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. He scored like a spectacular try against Australia, like beating 5 defenders. Like, whoa, this is a serious wing. And from what I've seen this year in the European Champions Cup, he's been in stunning form, So hopefully he will come and bring it.
He has also been a totally defensive liability at times.
Yeah,
casual fans are going to have to learn that it's not pronounced Thomas and
Thomas.
Thomas.
Actually, I learned about on that.
I was going to go back to when we were in our French moments earlier on. It's like, that's one of the things that the French team has great names.
Oh, I'm going to give you some extra information about know your name. Here you're going to get some insight because about the South African lock, Peter Step de Toit, as everyone says.
Yep.
It's a French name. So he's Trois. His parents are from French heritage.
Peter Step de Trois. Peter Step Trois.
Yeah.
Du Trois.
Always learning.
Oh,
Now say Triple T's name.
Triple T.
Te Toiroa Tapurirangi.
Ooh. But isn't that campaign bound to backfire eventually? As soon as you go outside New Zealand, how good they're gonna do with the French name just coming up now? If you put a French guy listening to the commentators or the players about them, they're gonna have some. Isn't it come on? As long as everyone understands.
I think historically New Zealand commentators have put much more effort into learning the foreign names than the Pacifica and Māori ones. So
the Aussie ones.
Yeah.
We don't want to offend our guest.
Hey, look, if we just call it K Road, then if you can't even bother to learn street names, how can you expect them to learn people's names as well?
Karangahapi.
Yes. This is we used to catch the 258 to Karangahapi Road and go have some chips at George's Courts.
But to come back to the question from the beginning, so to tie that up, it seems like there is a focused French team in town. That's what I can read from the signs they are sending out. It seems like they are here to give it a good shot, and if they do, then we all congratulate. As much as Ireland and Wallabies is looks like going to be a great series. Springboks, England also. But I know for sure, if the French bring it, this is going to be the series. You can't, a good series between France and New Zealand, All Blacks, you can't top that. No way. I'm sorry, Paul.
No, it's a big if, isn't it? This could so easily just be a 3-0 series, all the games won by 20 points. And it's all over, and it's a total bore fest. Or if France got up in that first game, it could be a really exciting series. But who knows which way it's going to go?
No, I was told to Ashwin yesterday. In a way, from if I put on my Steve Hansen All Black jersey and really try to go deep in it. The best thing that could happen almost is the French win the first one, then All Blacks come back and win the next two, from 2 proper test matches. That would be the best preparations for sure for the World Cup. And best entertainment too, for sure.
Oh, I think Steve Hansen would rather win
Not
the first
test.
test.
One. I'm going to be at the first one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think Steve Hansen would like to win the first one by a single point. To get scared, but not to lose. And have that winning mentality. I think that's what they would like to do. Is to, if they have to do a Ryan Crotty try like against Ireland a few years ago after the hooter to win the game, that's the kind of finish he'd like to see because that way, so they've been given a real. They get the win, but they've been given this.
With the conversion, with the conversion being the second attempt that goes over.
Yeah, it should be a draw.
To be fair, the home team is due a win at Eden Park, so.
Yeah. Absolutely correct. Absolutely, 100%. The odds are the home team has to win
coming
at some stage.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Now, there was also a quote from a French player today that they actually have studied the Lions series, and we said, like, if we don't win the first test, we're not going to pack our bags and go home and just because we watch the Lions series and we see there is chances we can improve also in the second and the third test. So they're obviously taking inspiration from it. But I have to ask you another thing here, because I'm reading New Zealand Herald.
Why?
And New Zealand NCH.
Why? Yeah.
Yeah, why would anyone read the New
You're
Zealand
the one
Herald?
person. You're the reader.
You're the reader.
It's
You're
not-
the Herald reader.
You're the person who's clicking it a million times
Yeah,
a
what's
day.
your
just to advertise.
No, but they're almost a little bit defeatist, With shades of 2009, with shades of 1990, like with shades of all the bad years of all, like, they've been going on about.
Have you
I'll
been
take that
reading
one. I
Ratchet?
actually put, if we had time tonight, because we're already over time tonight, but if we,
we're not,
actually, no,
because
we started late. We started late, yeah. But I actually put as a topic, if we needed something extra, is the fact is that the mainstream media clutching at straws. They went back to a game, and I can't remember which game it was actually, but I know the article you're referring to, and it's just like, what are they?
Oh, you read the New Zealand Herald?
91. They're comparing it with 91. 91 was a bunch of geriatrics with walking Zimmer frames going to a World Cup type scenario. This is nothing like 91, and there may be some issues around injuries and unknown, say like we talked about with the centre combinations and that sort of thing. That was just the headline, a clickbait headline that they use, which is classic Herald. No, so just to basically sum it up, they're a clickbait newspaper, just like every other newspaper around now.
Comparing anything to the amateur era too is just like,
I agree.
There's just no comparison. In saying that, what was the last test the All Blacks lost at Eden Park?
France 94.
94.
France 94. So history does repeat occasionally. I hope it's not this week.
So again, another. So I got a tweet. I started a quick video saying, "Hey, we're doing this show later," and rugbyforall.jp said, "Anti-All Black criticism from the media, cheap attempts to get attention." There we go.
Yep.
So
bingo.
It's exactly what's going on.
But they were like, because I recall like last year before the Lions tour, New Zealand Herald was like the complete opposite. They were probably the ones who were banging the drum the hardest. This is going to be a 3-0 whitewash, total destructions of the Lions. And they were, from the minute the Lions actually came to New Zealand and landed it like a couple of weeks before, they were like after them non-stop, harassing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
you're actually, that's a good.
There are two ways. How do you know you've got the Kiwi public scared? Number one, at Eden Park they start booing your kicks. Okay. So you know then that you're in the game.
We always boo kicks.
If the All Blacks are winning easily, they're just like, yeah, whatever. This is a game going on. I'm just going to chat here and I'll just ignore it, and they'll just let the kick go on. But if they stop booing, making a noise when you're kicking, you know you've got the crowd rattled. Number two, when the press start attacking you, when the press start going, oh, we're going to win too easily and they're all useless and blah blah, you know again that they're only doing this to build it up because they were all over the Lions' backs last year purely because they were again it was going to be a tough series. Hey, let's get behind the boys.
You don't disagree with Paul. Actually, a lot of the press that was on the backs of the Lions was actually their own. Some of the stuff that Warren Gatland was getting upset about last year was actually their own press having a go at him, as opposed to the New Zealand guys. New Zealand guys were a bit jumping on the bandwagon almost in some of the situations. I think but I mean, look, sort of the New Zealand Herald will basically do stories, and hey, look, they got to make money, but they'll do whatever gets the clicks, and they'll work out what the angle at the time get the click. With this French side. They've got to generate interest because they've got to get people going to the newspaper to read their paper. So, we've got to make them out to be scarier than they are, and they might actually have a chance of tipping them over and all that sort of stuff. I think then that's why they're basically doing that. And then also drag out the old cliches of the unpredictable French, which everybody knows. But how often does the unpredictable French turn up? That's the key.
Oh, it's unpredictable to know when the unpredictable team turns up.
We don't know. But it's the common theme for both tours is it's a bit it's a bit lazy journalists from New Zealand Herald because they don't really do research about the opponents, what they're really going to bring.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Exactly. Very lazy journalism.
Because I think for someone who followed Northern Hemisphere rugby closely for the last 2 years, it was no surprise at all that they're going to come and play like had a really good backline actually, and they had a really good squad. But it came like a total surprise to most Kiwis. I mean, and that's probably because the media, there was no information whatsoever about these players.
Look, absolutely, that's it. Look, very disappointing. When you look about how popular or the supposed craze around rugby is in this country, our journalism doesn't, reporting, we shouldn't even call it journalism because it's not, it's just reporting, doesn't stack up. You know, when you look at,
I'm not sure, it's just opinion.
You know, when you look at, it's just opinion piece. When you look at sort of like you go, obviously being New Zealanders, you make your trips to Aussie every now and then, and you look at their sports sections and there's analysis. It's not opinion, it's analysis. And it's backed up by statistics of what happened in a game or a player's career, that sort of thing. You don't get that over here. It's just an opinion piece by somebody who's trying to make sure that their article gets as many clicks as possible so they're still employed next week.
I'm going to give a little bit of rant here about New Zealand Herald then and New Zealand media, because as a neutral fan from the outside, what is the most annoying thing about this, because there's no doubt that Kiwis in general has the highest rugby knowledge. You know, there are enough people with enough knowledge about rugby to watch European rugby to make like fair assessments of it. And that's like what it makes it really, really annoying when actually people who should be in the know are just being ignorant.
It's because they don't want to pay for Rugby Channel.
I'm not paying for Rugby Channel. This guy trying to scam me some more money.
I mean, Ryan,
why isn't there a Rugby League channel? I want to know that. We've lost Herman's sound again.
Anyway, are we? I think we're kind of there, aren't we?
Yeah, we're kind of there. Yeah, I was just going to basically, obviously, it sounds like we're picking the All Blacks to win this one, possibly in a tight one with the rustiness of the teams and the also the unknown of the French. So, Ryan, what's your sort of call for the week, for the weekend's game? Sorry.
Yeah, I think the All Blacks. I think it'll be closer than people expect, but I don't think it'll be. I don't think we'll threaten an All Blacks loss. I think it'll be somewhere around like between 10 and 15 points.
Herman, what are you guessing?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go there now, quick.
All right, I say All Blacks by 3. I think it's going to be really, really close.
I'll
take my hard pills, Paul.
I'm with Ryan. All Blacks by 10.
Yeah, oh geez, I'm going to sound like a broken. I'll change it up a bit. I'll go 15. Just like, because I like to have a bit more comfort in the last 10, 15 minutes while I'm watching the game. So, hey, look, thanks for watching today. I'm going to throw back for Paul just to wrap it up for us today. And, we'll Paul, wrap it up for us.
Ryan, why don't you tell us where everyone can get all of your bestest wonderful rugby stuff?
So make sure you've got Tribe Sports app, which you can download in the App Store, the Play Store. At this stage, we're going to have live commentary of the All Blacks, as well as the Australia-Ireland game, England versus South Africa, and Argentina-Wales, and possibly some of the other internationals as well, if we can find coverage for them. So I'm going to hopefully search out a stream for some of those games. But we'll have live scoring as a last resort. And then, if you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can follow me at New York Nixon.
Cool. Thank you very much for joining us, Herman. There's no point going over to you because you have you're a social media ghost. Ashwin, let people know where they can.
And he has no sound.
And he's got no sound either. Yeah, Ashwin, let people know where they can hear about New Zealand politics and a bit of sport as well.
You can find me at NZ Fatso on Twitter, and I'll see you there.
And by the way, folks, Ashwin really likes if you walk up to him and say, hello, you're the guy from DrivingMaul, aren't you? It gives him this whole kind of, well, I'm a superstar kind of thing going on. He loves it.
Look at me!
Famous.
I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place rugby opinion and predictions. I'll be back later with my international rugby opinions and predictions. And tomorrow night, Herman and I will go through and preview all of the games with hopefully having some squads to discuss as well. So join us for that at 8 p.m. New Zealand time tomorrow night as well. Hit the like button, subscribe, show us some love, lots of comments down below, all of that kind of stuff, and catch you all next time.